Hi and welcome back. In this lecture, we're talking about understanding HTML with BeautifulSoup. Now that we understand the structure of HTML, we can tell Python how to understand it as well and how to extract some data from it. Because HTML is so structured, always with its opening and closing tags, it's fairly straightforward to get data out of it. And as part of this lecture, we're also going to install our first library. Because Python doesn't come with any functionality to understand HTML, we need to install a library from the outside in order to do that. There are a lot of Python libraries. It's one of the Python's strengths, actually, in order to do all sorts of things. And understanding HTML is one of these. There are other libraries for things like doing web development, data science, showing up windows on your monitor and things like that. There's loads of libraries, and we're going to install one. In order to install your library, we have to go over to PyCharm and find your preferences. In Mac, it's under PyCharm Community Edition Preferences, and I believe on Windows it's under File, and it's down here somewhere at the bottom. So if you go to your preferences, then you'll be greeted with this window that you may have seen before. And in here, there's one section that's particularly important for installing libraries, and this is your project. In your project, you can choose your project interpreter, and here you'll see the current version of Python that you are running. So as you can see, I'm running 3.6.0 because there's not that many difference between 3.6.0 and 3.6.4, which is the current version. But if you're using 3.7 or something like that, you'll see that here. Then down here, you'll see all the libraries you've got installed. It's possible that this will be empty because you've just started your Python journey and you don't have many things installed, and that's fine. Now, there are other ways of installing libraries other than through PyCharm, and we are going to learn how to use those other ways, but not in this video. We're going to keep it simple for now, and in this section, we'll just stick to installing things through here. Just press the plus icon, and here you can see all of these things are Python libraries you can install. But Python doesn't do any sort of sanitization, so these libraries, you don't really know what they do. I recommend you don't go installing random libraries from here. Make sure you know what you want before you go through this and install anything. And what we want is a library called BeautifulSoup 4. It's this one here. Notice how there are two at the moment, BeautifulSoup 4-slurp and BeautifulSoup 4. We want to install BeautifulSoup 4. Okay. There are others like BeautifulSoup and a bunch of others. Make sure you pick BeautifulSoup 4. This one here is version 3. And you don't want to go for that. You want to go for number 4. Okay. And then install it. Because I've already got it installed, my library is blue, as you can see. So I don't need to install it again. But all you have to do is select it and press install, and it should all be fine. You don't need to do anything else. Once that's done, you should see BeautifulSoup appear here like it has for me, and then that means you are ready to use it. Press apply, and then OK. Once you've done that, we can go ahead and look at our first example of understanding HTML using BeautifulSoup. And also we'll look at exactly what BeautifulSoup does and why we want it. So let's create a new Python file, and you can name it, for example, simple_html. This simple_html is because in this first example, we're going to be looking at some reasonably simple HTML that we can understand with BeautifulSoup. And in the next example, we're going to look at something a bit more complicated. So what does BeautifulSoup do? Well, I'm going to create a variable here, which is my simple HTML, and I've just pasted it in here. And look at how the HTML is structured into its tags. So you can see the HTML tag and the HTML closing tag. And inside this tag, you've got two children, essentially, the head tag and the body tag. The body tag contains a bunch of children, like this H1, this P here, this UL here. The UL contains a bunch of children, which are these LIs. UL, by the way, stands for unordered list. LI stands for list item. We've already looked at H1 for header 1 and P for paragraph. Also notice how one of these paragraphs has a class, subtitle class. What BeautifulSoup can do is it can sort of understand this structure, and it can determine that head is a child of HTML. And it can determine that there are two paragraphs. it can look at the attributes of different elements like this subtitle. And it can also do things like search. So you can tell it, I'm looking for an element that has class subtitle, and it will give you this p tag here. So BeautifulSoup is used for understanding and searching through HTML code. And by the way, just for completeness, HTML is very similar to another language called XML. They look essentially identical with a few minor differences. So BeautifulSoup can also be used for understanding XML, but we are not going to look into that in this video, or indeed in this course. So now that we've got our variable, we have to make sure to include BeautifulSoup into our file, to import it. And imports in Python should generally go at the top of the file. So we're going to do from bs4 import BeautifulSoup. Notice how we're not using BeautifulSoup 4 in any place, we're only using bs4. That's because the BeautifulSoup library has been coded, has been programmed so that the import happens like this. Other libraries are slightly different. In other libraries, you may do something like from BeautifulSoup 4 import something. But in the case of BeautifulSoup 4, this is incorrect. You must do from bs4 import BeautifulSoup.